and indeed in the company of none other than Taron McKenzie. We've enjoyed Neil McKenzie, his dad, in the commentary box a fair number of times, but Taz, who's unable to race today because he suffered a concussion in that mighty pran going into Clearways yesterday, is instead coming up to test out his talents as a commentator. If he's half as good as his dad, he'll be brilliant. Are you feeling all right, mate? Do you have a headache, or are you all in good shape?
Yeah, I've definitely felt better, but yeah, I was lucky. It's not much run off there, so I was lucky to get away with it.
You certainly were, and it's good to see you looking so well, if not feeling entirely 100%. So this then is the Bennett's British Superbikes race 1 of the King of Brands outing at Brands GP. The circuit, it's now hard to believe that it's 60 years since Mike Hailwood, the greatest of all perhaps, first won round this extended Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit of almost 2.5 miles. Scott Redding, former Grand Prix winner himself, is on 115 points, 6 points ahead of Tommy Bridewell. Taron McKenzie alongside us now, just a point further back in third place. Josh Brooks, a big gap back to fourth, ahead of Xavi Forres, who's starting way down on the grid, and Danny Buchan on the FS3 Racing Kawasaki. The starting grid is headed by Scott Redding by absolute milliseconds. As you can see, it was a 7,000th of a second job over his teammate Josh Brooks, with Jason O'Halloran third for McCann's Yamaha. Second row headed by Tommy Bridewell, Oxford Racing Ducati, Dan Linfoot, Santander Salt Tag Racing Yamaha, and Christian Hidden. Peter Hickman, Brad Ray, Danny Buchan are on row 3, Brad Ray's best qualification of the season. Luke Mossey, Keith Farmer on the second Tyco bike, and Andrew Irwin on the leading Honda are on row 4. So a packed grid, mixed conditions as we've already heard, and we've just heard that Scott Redding is gone out on an intermediate rear. Boys, does that sound like a good idea to you?
I don't know, he's a brave man doing that. I spoke to James Ellison on the grid and he said that the track, there was steam coming off the track, so he'll know.
The thing is, it's going to dry jack, but so it will favour other than wets, but you've got to get to that dry track over 5 or 6 or 7 laps and be on your bike when that happens. So doing that on anything but wets now is a task.
So fascinating to see what happens. The opening. Bennett's British Superbikes, 20 laps then of the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. Scott Redding doesn't help himself with a slow start. He goes back into the pack off pole position. Brooksy doesn't do well either. And a great start by Jason O'Halloran, and second place for Dan Linfoot on the yellow and black Santander Salt Anvil Hire racing job as they go up, tag racing, I beg their pardon, as they go up into the first turn. The leading McCann's Yamaha then, Jason O'Halloran getting exactly the start he wanted.
Yeah, loads of shenanigans there up at Druids involving, I think Luke Mossey got popped wide, a couple more were taken with him. A little bit messy that, as it is sometimes in the wet. You're trying to avoid all the pain, all the slipping bits, you're trying to look who's around you, lots of spray coming up, not so easy when they're bunched up.
And Scott Redding has vanished into the pack. We're on the first lap of 20. This is going to be fascinating.
Yeah, he's disappeared in the pack because he couldn't get off the line because he's got an intermediate tyre. And well, we told him, as if he has, he's just not getting any traction. That thing will spin like mad in a straight line.
So he's just been overtaken by Sean Winfield, so he's virtually dead last.
Yeah, that probably wasn't the best start from pole position, but it's so off with Scott because he is new to this, and I'm guessing he won't have ridden on an intermediate tyre, so it'll be tricky to know how to push in these first few laps.
Yeah, and I actually think that the conditions will come back to him, but I think it might just be too late at that point. Dan Linfoot at the front. Dan is such a wet weather man.
I've just remembered the conditions in which he won at Alton Park. So he's really taking off at the front here, the first of 20 laps, and former race winners, of course, the tag racing team. So Dan Linfoot leading the way, Tommy Bridewell second for Oxford Racing Ducati, O'Halloran in third place for McCann's Yamaha, Bradley Ray up there, Christian Hidden up there, Ray in fourth place, far and away his best start to a race. We've scarcely seen him this year.
Yeah, where's Peter Hickman and Christian Hidden? There they are,
fifth and sixth.
That's it, and that's all right. They're wet weathermen, they're the ones who generally think this. Tommy Bridewell slicing up the inside into his nice little move that, kept it on the curve as well.
And Hickman was being challenged by Andy Irwin there as they went into Druids. Brooks behind them in 8th place, followed by Keith Farmer, of course, another man who likes dodgy conditions. He's in 9th, Danny Buchan 10th.
So what's the plan then, Taron? You're feeling for how much grip it is, where the grip is, how much sort of traction you've got, and just figuring it out?
Yeah, the Indy circuit definitely seems to be the less grippy part of the track. Out the back is actually quite grippy. Taylor was saying out of Druids and out of Graham Hill, they're always, in his Superstock race, that was always the slippy parts of the track, but this part of the track always seems to be quite grippy.
Yep, and you've got to find out where that grip is. Expect lap times to be nibbled away at and just get quicker and quicker as the race goes on, as the riders feel for where the grip is, and conditions come back to them a little bit as well.
Phil Bay Suzuki and Bradley Ray challenging into Westfield there, right behind Jason O'Halloran, currently in 3rd place. Scott Redding is stone last, 15.4 seconds behind the leader. And the battle on just behind these guys. Iden, Hickman, Irwin are there as they go into the left-hander.
When you get somebody choosing drier tyres in wet conditions, it always reminds me of Eddie Lawson on a Kajiva at Hungaroring a lot of years ago. He put slicks on, it was pouring down with rain, it stopped raining, it dried out, it was nearly lapped, and then he basically unlapped himself and then proceeded to pass everybody and win the race. That doesn't happen so often though, Jack.
Carbon copy of a race that we actually commentated on. Misano, Frankie Killy, slick tyres, stone last, and came through to win the race on the last lap from Regis Laconi on the factory Ducati.
Yeah, that's Scott Redding.
2004.
Absolutely no side grip whatsoever, no forward grip either. That thing's just going to spin as soon as he opens the throttle.
He crosses the line now, so he's 29.3 seconds behind the leader, 11 seconds behind Joe Francis, the second last man. But it might all come back to him, James. It's a long race.
It might do. What I would say is these days, the wet weather tyres, especially the rears, tend to hang on a lot better than the old block pan ones did. These are what's called aeroplane pans, with long curved lines that go into the water, obviously soft compound as well, but they tend to stay together and wear down instead of falling apart, where the old block pan type wets of a few years ago just dropped in bits, and you would have to stop if conditions dried out.
So right now, there's the leading two. Then there's a gap back to O'Halloran and Bradley Ray. Hickman and Irwin have got the better of Iden. Iden's been pushed back to 7th place. His teammate Farmer's moved up with Danny Buchan past Josh Brooks, who slipped to 10th place. Has Brooks got full wets on then? I wonder what's going on with Josh. I expected him to be a bit higher up at this stage in the race.
I think he must have full wets. The way he's not going slow enough to have anything other than wets. That makes sense.
Yeah, Brooks and Buchan were the two fastest in warm-up, as well as Bridewell, but it's strange that those two are so far down, especially Josh starting on the front row. What I was going to say about the two, we have two wet compounds now, a soft and a hard, whereas we've always just had one. Yeah. So I guess a lot of the riders will have gone for the harder compound with it drying out. Yeah, and that's a lot more chance of hanging together. But they're so good, these tyres, Jack. You wouldn't believe the amount of stick. 220 horsepower put through a tyre that feels like chewing gum. He's just unreal, and these last, they don't fly apart.
There's a good lash going on here between Andy Irwin on the Honda Racing bike there in red, and right behind him in blue and yellow, Christian Iden, number 21, with Danny Buchan moving in on them as well. These are the guys who are lying 7th, 8th, and now maybe gone 6th, 7th, and 8th. Irwin's just got the better of Iden since they crossed the line as they went into paddock. Yeah, there's Josh Brooks at the back of that group.
A lot more mentally demanding in the wet, because you know you can't make one single tiny mistake, because you'll be down the road as Iden slips up the inside of Andy Irwin. If you touch a white line, you touch any overbanding, you've got a bit of slippy track that you know's there, it can be all over in a millisecond. You need down the road running what happened. So mentally, not physically, it's less demanding physically, but mentally it's quite a demanding thing to do, is this.
It's just occurred to me, Taz, this is quite good news for you, with Scott running way downfield. The man who's threatening the most is Tommy Bridewell, as we watch Hickman there get the better of Bradley Ray. Hickman now moves through into 4th place. You suspected he would do well in these conditions, James.
I thought he might. Yeah, this is not too bad for you, is it?
Buchan getting round the outside into clearways, and the Tyco BMW of Iden has to give way. Buchan then on the charge, all 6 foot 3 inches of him, elbows out. No, he loses out. Then he cuts to the inside for Paddock. Eases Iden aside. So a real cut and thrust racing here. Besides the two leaders who are 5.3 seconds down the road ahead of this lot, this is the gang who are fighting over the top places.
Oh, hey!
Hidden there, clashes with Andy Irwin. There's a couple of aggressive lads together.
Yeah, it is. I've never known an Irishman that doesn't like a fight, to be honest. And Andy Irwin's no different.
Behind them, just hovering behind them is Keith Farmer. This is the uphill. That's so much steeper than it looks on that picture as they go round Surtees, climb up, and then plunge down Pilgrim's Drop. Bridewell leads Linfoot by 0.7 of a second. Scott Redding last, 52.1 seconds adrift and about 15 seconds behind Joe Francis.
How much elevation change is there at Ramsden? Because I know, I've looked it up.
Oh, I don't know. It always sounds slightly less than I hope it would be.
Have a guess.
I'd say about 80 feet.
150 feet.
Really?
Yeah, 53
Oh,
metres apparently.
That's really impressive, and I should have known because I've actually paddled around on a scooter and they feel like big drops on that.
I'll be honest, you know, when this is the sort of place you come and you do feel every bit of that 150 feet of elevation change, but when you go around in a push bike, you come and you do your training on a night, in a nice summer night, and you do feel it then, or you're running. You know, a lot of riders run around on a night.
This is a good battle at the front then. Bridewell versus Linfoot. Two guys. Bridewell, of course, in a very strong position to take over the championship lead here because currently he's just 6 points behind at the moment the cast adrift Scott Redding. So these two at the front, Bridewell and Linfoot. O'Halloran still third. Hickman, Ray, Buchan, Idden, Irwin all locked together ahead of Keith Farmer. Josh Brooks is 10th, James Ellison having a decent ride on the second, Smith's BMW 11th, Luke Mossey 12th ahead of Matt Truelove, who's having a great ride, your semi-teammate on the Cams Yamaha, right in the points, Taz.
Yeah, Matt was really excited when it was wet this morning and he was definitely praying for a rain because he goes, he's new to Superbikes and it's a tough class, but he feels a lot more confident in the rain, so yeah. To score points, well, hopefully we can score some points.
Yeah, Matt's the whole family, the Truelove family's a real nice family, good kids.
You've got to be with a name like that, haven't you, really?
I suppose.
Look at the people he's ahead of. Glenn Irwin, Javi Forrest, Josh Elliott, Claudio Corti, Stapleford, Barrier, Hipwell, Coventry, Barbara down in 23rd place, 38.4 seconds behind the leader. Can't be enjoying these conditions much around a track he's unfamiliar with.
Yeah, and as you can see, the lap times have been nibbled away at, especially by these leading two, Bridewell and Linfoot. They're just sussing it out now. By now, they'll know where to avoid, where the slipping paths are. And tracks change the whole time. You'll come back to Brands, and you'll find that in the wet that places, there's different places slipping based on there might have been a car accident on a track there that spilled some oil or whatever, a patch they put in or some overbanding. So these things kind of change the whole time. It's a changing situation in the wet always. That's Giovanni Krupi and Sam Neat. That's all. That's Scott Redding side of the garage. They'll be wondering what they've done. Now, where is he?
Is the Yamaha well suited to this place? I'm impressed with what Linfoot's doing at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. This time last year was sort of a turning point for me coming to this track. And
yeah, we saw.
Yeah, and it wasn't because I really like this track. I think the Yamaha did suit it a little bit, and as you can see, Linfoot's going all right. My teammate Jason Halloran's in third as well. So,
hang on, what's this? That's Andy Irwin. That's a contact from before. That's Irwin and Idden. Well, oh, that's Farmer, sorry. Yeah, well,
that's two Irish boys together having a little class. And Andy Irwin had about 3 lines going into Druids then, didn't he?
He had 3 goals, that's it.
Bridewell leading the way then. It's a while since Tommy won a race, but he's looking strong.
Look at this, look on the inside of that corner, that's Sterling's, and look on the inside, look, what is there?
Dry
really
line.
Nice drying line. It's not taking long, and there's patches everywhere else as well.
We're on the 7th lap of 20, so we're coming up to 1/3 race distance. Well, we are on 1/3 race distance because we're completing that 7th lap now. On to the 8th lap, the 2 leaders go. Scott Redding last lap round was 1:44. 1:44.
Yeah, not good enough. I think even if it dried out immediately this next lap, I don't think he'd have enough time to get going and win this race.
Here comes Luke Mossey having a look at James Ellison. So Mossey creeps through into 11th place ahead of James Ellison. Truelove behind them, still ahead of Glenn Irwin, who's passed Javi Forrest. Brad Ray's dropped back to 10th place. Brooks has nipped past him.
Yeah, a drying line as well up at Druids. He's coming back to him now. It's coming back to Reading. What you get here at Brands is you get places that dry out really quick because it's dead steep, so the water sheets off immediately it stops raining. But also you get packed places where there's really deep puddles because it's a dip, so you get a bit of both here.
These guys don't want to be looking for the damp line yet, do they? They seem happy on the dry line where it is.
Yeah, I mean, what do you mean? That they're trying to keep the tyre at some point? Yeah, it doesn't happen like it used to happen because these tyres hang on a lot better than the old wets used to do.
Impressive drive by number 83 there on the FS3 Racing Kawasaki. Well, as well as Peter Hickman. Danny Buchan looking strong.
Danny Buchan's always impressed me. If he can ride a superbike, and he started doing this last year, from halfway through last year, as well as he can ride a super stock bike, but he'll be quick in this class.
These two look so evenly matched, don't they? It's a real kind of almost a waiting game between these two. They're just pinning the laps in the mid 136s, so they're lapping faster than anybody else. Well, beg your pardon, Iden did a 36.7, his fastest lap on the last lap.
Dan Linfoot needs a bonus money. He's got an ever-growing family and a mortgage to support now, so...
Oh, is there a pregnancy in there again?
I don't quote me on anything.
Oh, okay.
A little bit wide there.
I thought you said, when you said ever-growing, I thought there was more to come.
A little bit wide there from Bridewell up at Druids. So easy to do.
Who would you favour here, Taron?
I'll go with Tommy Bridewell. Well, it's hard to say because Dan Linfoot, you know how hard he rides, and they both haven't won a race this year, so it's going to be a tough call.
Yeah, and you know what I'd say is right. I mean, Bridewell always one of them riders that doesn't really have a championship axe to grind because he's never been consistent enough to be up there in the championship. Now he has, and I just wonder whether he's changed his strategy a little bit this year. Dan Linfoot, if I were him, I'd just be having a go at me, chucking the flipping sinkite and having a go at a win here.
Fastest lap of the race, Iden 136.2 on that last lap. And so he's closed the gap on the battle between Hickman and Buchan. There's Scott Redding.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a huge distance behind.
Now, I think what we're going to see here is that how close he's for being lapped. So he's probably 25 seconds off being lapped.
Yeah, here come the two leaders, so the gap really isn't there. And look at the spray coming off those back wheels.
In the corners, look at the corners, Jack.
Yes.
That's what you've got to do. Don't mind on the straight.
Okay.
Scott,
he's 1 minute and 20 seconds behind.
Scott's he was over 10 seconds off at some point, and now he's only about 4 seconds off. That was his fastest lap by a long way. So,
and his laps will get quicker.
Yeah, exactly, and
This is fascinating because we're on the 10th lap of 20. I'm not going to put it past him, James. I'm sorry, but I think if he can knife his way through the pack and make quick passes, and he might well be able to do that with that advantage. How big an advantage is it when he's got a wet tyre on the front anyway, as well as the intermediate rear?
Massive. If this dries out, he'll get traction because instead of slipping on water, his grip's on the dry tarmac, and the wet tyres go the opposite way. They'll start to not slide. They start to move because the rubber's so soft. So he'll swap round. I think he'll just swap round a little bit late for him.
Look at Dan Linfoot now. You said he ought to start putting the pressure on Bridewell. The power of the V4R Ducati just carries Bridewell safely down Pilgrim's Drop. That's something like 175 miles an hour down there. Does it feel that fast?
Yeah, just as you go under the bridge, you're in sort of 4th, 5th gear, and it tries wheeling, so it definitely feels fast when you're braking into it.
Yeah, these things, you have no idea how fast these things are, I'm telling you.
You said at Donington you were having to come out of Coppers onto the Dunlop straight with your foot planted on the back brake against the Ducatis because the thing just wanted to rear up.
Yeah, that's it. The Superbike's obviously got no electronics, no anti-wheelie, and that rear brake is your anti-wheelie.
Yeah, well, you're welcome to it, son.
That's coming from a man who never used the back brake.
I didn't know. No, that's dogs and tricks spring to mind.
So as they charge the line now, are there some sprinkles of rain?
There's a bit of rain coming. Yeah,
sprinkle of rain here on just a light sprinkle on the front of our commentary booth. Last lap, Reading 139.4, but still 3 seconds slow. Here's Hickman challenging Jason O'Halloran. And Buchan has a massive moment there coming out of paddock. Christian Iden still there in 6th. Brooks closing on him with the fastest lap of the race for Josh Brooks, 135.1. And O'Halloran makes a mistake into Druids, and lo and behold, he's swapped straight away. Hickman and Buchan waste no time. Jason will be disappointed because he was looking a strong third at one point there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason hasn't had a podium this year, and I know he's really determined to get one.
But determined, really desperate.
And there's the guys lying 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th as they stream off into the country. It's huge, torrid descent and uphill into Hawthorns.
Yeah, and
Brooks is now on it.
You've got a little bit of rain blowing about in the wind now. What will happen? That won't bother the riders with the wet too much, but it definitely will bother Scott Redding because he needed everything to dry out a little bit quicker than it has done, I think.
Brooks is lapping about 1 second faster than anyone now as well, so he's coming through.
I think that rostrum place is definitely up for grabs with the BYZ Ducati there, moving on to the back wheel of Tyco BMW and Christian Iden. And as they head for clearways, look at the drive of that Ducati coming out of Sterling's, straight underneath the BM.
Yeah, problem you've got when you're going past a pack of riders in condition like this is it's actually not so bad. The drying line is quite wide now. But if it's narrow, you've got to go off the dry line to get past, and that's less grip.
So we've completed 11 laps. We're just past half race distance here in Bennett's British Superbikes Race 1. At the front, it's still just 0.4 seconds between Tommy Bridewell and Dan Linfoot. Then a gap of 6.2 seconds back to this lot. Hickman leading Buchan, O'Halloran, Brooks and Iden. Andy Irwin's 8th. Keith Farmer has dropped behind his fellow Ulsterman into 9th. Luke Mossey still 10th. Josh Brooks makes his move past Jason O'Halloran, so Brooks moves through into 5th place and really begins to tighten the screws on the two guys in front of him.
Yeah, there's you know what I'm seeing there? On the dry bit of the track, there's now wet lines from the tyres, so there is a little bit of rain coming down again. This is probably getting to the point where we're going to see the lap times drop down a little bit.
Josh Brooks has that fastest lap. He would start race 2 from pole ahead of Buchan and Hickman. Glenn Irwin actually would start on the second row of the grid. How's he managed that? Glenn Irwin's in 13th place.
Yeah,
but he set one quick lap.
Conditions, Jack, that's what it is. He didn't make the best of starts because of where he was on the original grid. You see the lines, though. This is, I think conditions are going the other way now. I think you're going to see he's using a bit, and that's a sketchy move, is that, when you've got the throttle open on a 220 horsepower bike on the pane in the wet. This is
the second Honda of Xavi Forrest has just come into the points. Matt Trula was slipped to 14th behind Glenn Irwin. Outside the points, Stapleford, Corty, Elliott, Coventry in 19th place, Hickwell in 20th. Redding is now in 23rd place. He's overtaken Hector Barbara and Joe Francis.
These lads, I'm surprised these lads are still pushing on. Fastest lap of the race, last lap for Brooks at a sub 35 now, 1:35, 1:34.9 now. That's a good second, going on for a second quicker than everybody in front of him.
Peter Hickman coming off a very successful fortnight in the Isle of Man, if a rather wet one. And he's certainly holding on to that 3rd place.
Not as successful as Keith Hickman, who stayed at home and didn't go to the Isle of Man. Who is Keith Hickman? You keep mentioning him. 1960s Enduro rider?
No, 1960s BSA factory motocross racer, mate.
There you go.
Let it lie, let it lie.
Keith.
Tommy Bridewell then is still just holding that hovering lead over Dan Linfoot. I don't know whether Linney has got anything in reserve that can bring him onto the back wheel. Hector Barbara is about to be lapped on the Quattro Plant JG Speedfit Kawasaki. There he is.
Rain now that was blowing about in the wind seems to have stopped the odd spot, but I don't think it's doing enough. You can see the fair degradation line on Hector Barbara's rear tyre there, just off the centre.
Redding is still a couple of seconds off the pace of these guys at the front. We're on the 13th lap of 20, so it certainly is. We're approaching 2/3 race distance here. Remember, this was called a wet race for obvious reasons, so it'll go the full distance. There's Redding. There's Redding dropping into Druids. And I think the leaders will pop into view, and here they come.
Right, so Taz, what are you trying to conserve your tyre now? You know you've got wets on, you know it's dry now. You're trying to just be easy with the throttle a little bit, or?
Yeah, it's hard because Tommy's probably trying to conserve his tyre, but everyone's obviously pushing on every single lap, so I don't know, it's tough for Tommy. He's got Dan right behind him. If he backs off, then Dan's going to try and come past, so I'd say he's used the best of his tyre now and he's just got to manage it now to the end of the race.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be safe in the knowledge that whoever's come with him has probably used about the same amount of tyre as him. We know that the Ducati's generally reasonably good at, and the Yamaha actually, at not giving the tyre a lot of stick compared to some bikes.
these two look fairly comfortable. Scott Redding will now be P9 for race 2.
Yeah, and he set his fastest lap of the race that last lap as well. It's just everyone else is setting their fastest laps too. But the drier it gets, the faster Scott's going to get, and the further it puts him up the grid for race 2.
So now he's done a 136.5, which does match what the guys at the front are doing, except for Hickman and Brooks, who's just gone under 135 with a 34.6. He's passed Danny Buchan, and he's pushing on in pursuit of Peter Hickman. As always, a pretty healthy crowd here at Brands Hatch. Whatever the weather, they all come out. There's number 45, Scott Redding on the BY's Ducati. He crosses the line. Here are the race leaders, almost side by side as Linfoot launches out of clearways in the Clark curve brilliantly around the outside and manages to anchor up and hit his apex going down at paddock.
Yeah, well, at least it doesn't look like Redding's going to get lapped, because he's lapping almost, he's only about a second slower now than these guys and likely to get quicker if there's no more rain.
Has Linfoot decided he can go for this change? It looks like he's thinking, I'm confident with this, the bike's behaving itself, the tyres are behaving themselves.
He's decided something.
He has.
He can tell that. Quite know what it is.
Linfoot, of course, who's way down, 18th in the championship standings after a series of motley results and various technical issues. Brooks is up to third now, ahead of Peter Hickman and Danny Buchan.
Yeah, Linfoot had a lot of brake issues first couple of meetings, unexplained really, and it's difficult to understand why, because everybody uses almost the same. There's only two systems used in the paddock, that's Nissin and predominantly Brembo, so you just change the system and you should fix the problem. But it carried on for a couple of meetings, which was odd for him, but he's definitely capable of being higher up in the championship than that.
I think Brooks is the danger man here. I think Brooks is the danger man. He's lapping so much quicker than the guys in front, and he's not actually that far behind. I think Brooks could be our race winner here. He loves this place. He was the king of Brands last year.
He is lapping a bit quicker, not lapping... it might be enough, he's only 3.5 seconds behind now. There he is, look, that's... Yep, you don't need a clock for that. Well, maybe Linfoot's crew's just put a board down and told him about Brooks. So that's because you'd want to know.
That's the 15th lap complete. So he's still got 5 laps to go. He crosses the line now. That was a 33.42 lap. That was hugely quicker. That was 2 seconds quicker than Tommy Bridewell. Bridewell there, still in second place, but for how long? Has Brooks just been timing this and just going with his tyres?
I can assure you, no. You don't want to make it hard for yourself, do you? This is exactly what Neil Mackenzie used to do just about every race. He'd make a really bad start, and then I'd be getting signals. Yeah, Neil's coming. You might want to think about going a bit quicker.
Brooks, Linfoot, Buchan, Hickman, Irwin and Scott Redding would now be the starting order for race 2.
I'll tell you what, with 5 to go, Brooks could win this, you know.
What did I say a lap ago? Excuse me.
Oh, sorry, all right.
So who have you got down to win this, Taran? Go on, your experience. Oh, well, there's Josh. Look at the guys in front of him.
You're going to win it. Yeah. I said that a few laps ago, Jack, if you remember.
Yeah, Brooks is going nearly half a second faster in that first sector, so I think he'll be on. Well, he's nearly on Tommy now.
Would the Ducati look after its tyres a little better than the two bikes? Oh, mind you, one of them's a Ducati, isn't it? I beg your pardon. Withdraw that question. His last lap, 133.4, 134.7 for race leader Dan Linfoot. One Ducati ready to launch an assault on another here as we come out of the Clark curve. Here comes Brooks.
Yeah, Linfoot's going to be getting the plus now from his crew. He'll know that Brooks is definitely going to be on him.
Tommy's obviously resilient. He's going to, and now we've got those range spots again. Redding's last lap time, 1:35.0, was his best lap of the race as Brooks goes through neatly into Druids.
Yep, nice and neat that. No opportunity there for Bradley to get straight back at him.
Remember Josh Brooks, who's 4th in the table, had a rather drastic weekend, scoring not as many points as he felt he should have done at Donington Park after that glorious high side.
Yeah, but everywhere we've been this year, Silverstone, everywhere, Brooks has been quick. Yeah. He's not been slow, he's not been through lack of any talent or speed and bike setup that he hasn't got the results.
There's Sean Winfield plunging down Pilgrim's Drop. There's his teammate coming up to lap him, number 4 Dan Linfoot, still the race leader.
Not for long though, I fear.
Brooks might have, sometimes when you know the track's going to dry out, you don't put your full wet setting in, you maybe put a slightly harder setting in, or he might have that harder wet rear tyre on which is allowing him to have a bit more pace.
I mean, the thing is, you put a lot softer setting in rear and front suspension when it's wet, because you don't develop the grip to move that suspension. However, when you've got wets on and it dries out, you haven't got the grip from the wets to need dry settings either, so you need somewhere in between. That makes sense.
Yeah,
I do know what I'm talking about. I just don't sound like it.
You know, an adept and experienced crew can kind of put
yeah, exactly.
just right.
Yeah, this is sometimes when a crew becomes really important.
And Brooks has got the harder grade rear tyre on, we're just hearing. Linfoot's got the softer of the wets on. So Taron McKenty, big score to you there, mate.
On, yeah.
And here comes Brooks then, so surely, I mean, for Linfoot, okay, this may not be heading just now for a race win, although he's still there in the lead, but a rostrum would be very welcome for the Santander Salt Tag Racing boys.
There's definitely a lot more movement from the whole bike, actually, of Linfoot than there is of Brooks. You just saw it coming out of Druids there. That might be down to a little bit of suspension differences too, but the thing's certainly moving around a lot more.
How many good riders are there in this series? I mean, Linfoot, we haven't seen him all year, and suddenly here he is out at the front.
I've always rated Linfoot, always.
And of course he's got 250 GP experience. He's ridden the European Series, Stock 600 and Super Sport, and never performed badly in those races.
No.
He's still setting personal best as well, Dan, so he's doing well. And he sat behind Tommy a long time in the race, and then he passed him into paddock and then just decided to go. So
I think his crew will have told him that he's going to have company, and he decided to.
Maybe too late.
Yeah, well, maybe, yeah.
This is great. What a fascinating contest. We're on the 18th lap of 20, so just 2 more to go after this one. Look at Brooks. And then he shifts his backside over for the right-hander, and he goes straight through. The Ducati outpowers the Yamaha through clearways.
That's the thing, when you've got a bike that's just a little bit quicker than the people you're up against, and it makes that move a lot easier. When you can get yourself somewhere near level, then the rest you can do on the brakes.
Dan's not taking this line down. Look, he's driven sideways out of clearways. He's driving as hard as he can on that softer rear tyre.
He ain't driven down from East Yorkshire for no, I'll tell you.
No.
That's the bonus.
In the sunshine and the drying. Don't forget, what did Tommy Bridewell do last lap? 34.4. That was his fastest lap of the race. And Redding has just put himself into P2 for race 2 with a lap of 133.669. So he and Brooks are the only guys who've gone sub 134s.
See, gone out of Surtees there. Dan Linfoot asked the bike to go, he opened the throttle, and the thing didn't want to. It's spinning, and you can see the rear moving. He's definitely not getting the traction out the corners that Brooks is getting on the Ducati. For whatever reason, that could be suspension setting difference, or I suspect more slightly out of rear tyre in the case of Brooks.
He's hanging right there with the Ducati, isn't he? So, the Australian Josh Brooks, 2nd place for North Yorkshireman Dan Linfoot, 3rd place for Deviser's Southwest star Tommy Bridewell. Buchan is in 4th, having got the better of Hickman. Iden running in 6th ahead of his teammate Farmer. O'Halloran down to 8th, Irwin down to 9th.
See Linfoot just lose the front a little bit in the Sterling's there, and had to just pick it up and run a little bit wide. That wasn't so dangerous. You can feel that happening when you're on wets on a dry track. You can control it a lot easier. You get a little bit of warning, but it does mean you're not getting to the corner when you want it to get in.
The harder... Sorry, go on. The harder wet tyre obviously will play in Josh's hands, but the front tyre is the same for everyone, and that's what will feel worse than the rear, really, is the front, especially with a softer wet setting in.
Yeah, if the front's going wrong, you feel you can do less with it than if the rear's going wrong.
They say the first man you've got to beat is your teammate. Look at this. Christian Iden and Keith Farmer locked together into the final lap on the Tyco BMWs ahead of Jason O'Halloran in 8th. Andy Irwin threatening O'Halloran.
You need Keith Farmer behind you in conditions like this in a race, like you need a boil on your bum, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I was thinking that he's going to have a lunge. What about Andy Irwin? He's going to have a lunge at some point at O'Halloran, you feel. So Jason O'Halloran from Wollongong coming under pressure from the youngest of the Carrick-Fergus brothers. Meanwhile, Christian Iden and the red helmet getting threatened by his teammate from Clocker in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, both superb supermoto riders.
Yeah.
And it looks like Brooks has got this now. He's got enough, and it looks to me like Iden is letting him have it, and probably quite rightly.
So Oh, Redding could get pole position. He's setting some purple times here right at the back of the well. Currently running in 22nd place. He's not going to take any points, but he might be on pole position for race 2. As Josh Brooks, however, is headed for 25 very welcome points. Dan Linfoot headed for 20 very welcome points for 2nd place. BY's Ducati, Josh Brooks wins again after losing out at Donington Park. His 3rd victory of the season in the Bennett Spitty Superbike Championship, and that was a great ride from outside the top 10. Dan Linfoot a magnificent 2nd. Tommy Bridewell, the new championship leader, takes 3rd place for the Oxford Racing Ducati squad, who are well happy with that. And Buchan crosses the line. Hickman comes home in 5th place, and Farmer passes Iden.
Redding will be pole already. His last lap, his next to last lap, was already quicker than anybody's done this lap.
There's Luke Mossey crossing the line behind the Irwin boys in 11th place. Here's number 81 Luke Stapleford battling with number 6 Tabby Forrest. That's for points. 13th is Stapleford, 14th is Forrest right now, and behind them Claudio Corti in 15th, Josh Elliott in 16th. Here comes Forrest past Stapleford.
Yeah, wide though. Stapleford took it back up the inside, and Staples on the drier bit of track. No, it's nearly all dry now.
And Stapleford and the Bill Bay Suzuki just keep a grip on that 13th place out of Forrest. Josh Elliott gets the better of Corti. Claudio Corti on the WD-40 Kawasaki just loses out on a point, and Bradley Razor ended back in 17th. And 132.5, fastest lap of the race for Scott Redding. He'll start on pole position alongside his triumphant teammate, number 25, Josh Brooks. Oh, and here's the fastest lap coming to its conclusion. He's already done a 132.5. He crosses the line now. That was a 133.4, but Scott Redding then finishes in 22nd place, but will have pole position, which he didn't make a very good job of in the first race, but hopefully in dry conditions might do better second time out. He's looking back at that time,
yeah, and that's
thinking, who made that decision?
Yeah, well, that is the price you pay for a bad time decision. A race can easily be won and lost.
Darren, who makes the decision in your camp?
Always me, because I'd hate for someone else to make the decision for me and then it's their fault. So I guess Scott will have wanted to go for that, but it's just unfortunate for him, I guess.
You take advice, but you're at the pointed end and you've got to put up with it if it's wrong, so yeah, it's always a rider at the end of the day.
The last thing he said to you on the grid was mixed conditions, we'll just do our best. Josh Brooks, Dan Linfoot and Tommy Bridewell will enjoy talking to them, the rostrum finishers, after an excellent race in treacherous conditions. Danny Buchan keeps himself secure in the top 6 ahead of Peter Hickman. Keith Farmer nicks 6th place from teammate Christian Iden on the final lap. Jason O'Halloran just behind them in 8th place. Andrew Irwin, he just behind him by a whisker in 9th. Glenn Irwin several seconds back on the Quattro Plant JG Speedfit Kawasaki. And then the final point scorers, Luke Mossey, James Ellison, Luke Stapleford, Xavi Forrest, and Josh Elliott pinches that last point from Claudio Corti on the final lap. Brad Ray inexplicably drifts back to 17th from a really early promise. Matt Truelove 18th ahead of Sam Coventry and Dean Hipwell. Behind them, incidentally, Sylvain Barrier 21st, Scott Redding 22nd. And the standings, Tommy Bridewell, the new championship leader, 10 points clear of Scott Redding. Taron McKenzie still healthily there on 108 points in 3rd place. Josh Brooks moves up to 99. Danny Buchan moves 5th on 81 ahead of Xavi Forrest. Andy Irwin, a surprise mover, 7th, 2 points ahead of Josh Elliott, who is level with Christian Iden. Peter Hickman just a point behind in 10th. This is so tight for that showdown, the top 6. O'Halloran is in 11th. Keith Farmer in 12th. Luke Mossey level with Dan Linfoot now in 13th place. Just 2 points ahead of Luke Stapleford, ahead of his teammate Brad Ray.
Well, there you go, the first step towards that Triple Crown cash then. It's not the most important thing, but it wouldn't go down too badly, would it? 75 grand if Josh Brooks can continue this form here. He's kicked it off in the right way. Victory in BSB Race 1 here at Brands Hatch. Just 5 more to go then. We'll have reaction, including podium interviews, in just a couple of minutes.